We're looking at the year 2015 and going forward to now and the significance of that particular year. In year 2015, Christiana Figueres, Executive Secretary of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, stated a series of events would take place to intentionally change the world economy. And she was looking forward to the Paris Agreement as part of this intentional change. So that statement was early on in the year. And then we have Pope Francis coming into the middle of the year. He comes to the USA and he's talking to congressional lawmakers. And this was through the influence of such people as the Speaker of the House at the moment, Nancy Pelosi, and the former Speaker of the House, John Boehner. So John, you can see him in the background as the Pope is talking. He's trying to hold back the tears. The Pope went on to address the United Nations in New York, and he must have had quite an influence because the Paris Agreement was formed in 2015 based on the Pope's encyclical. The agreement's language was negotiated by representatives of 196 state parties in a place close to Paris, France, which was Le Bourget, and adopted by consensus on the 12th of December 2015. However, this agreement would be useless, of course, unless big business was involved. That is why the meeting between the Vatican and big business and the media giants, particularly in the year 2016. It was a very busy year for the Pope. While the discussion was raised through media on climate change, it was not attainable, of course, because of the election of Donald Trump in his favour with the backing of the evangelicals at the end of 2016. On the 1st of April 2016, United States and China, which together represent almost 40% of the global emissions, issued a joint statement confirming that both countries would sign the Paris Agreement. So the very different situation back then to what we have today, with a lot of negative feeling towards China at the moment. 175 parties signed the agreement of the first date it was open for signatures, so a lot of countries wanted to become involved straight away. Now, Obama stated in his address in Berlin, Germany, it was one of the last times that he made an address while still president. He said, though globalization has fueled a sense of injustice and needed a course of correction to address the growing inequality, there will not be a return to a world before globalization. Well, they gave us the sense that the whole idea of globalization was to bring equality, and of course it never works out that way. And they give you a little snippet on what words such as world order, new world order, globalization, but they're never there to explain it to the common person. Germans and Americans must take the opportunity to shape globalization according to our values and ideas. We're committed to broadening and deepening our cooperation with our businesses and our citizens, indeed the whole of the world community. Well, it's a bid for world power. Along comes COVID-19. Donald Trump didn't believe in climate change. He wasn't going to keep in the Paris Agreement. What the great nations of the world and the world pollutants had agreed upon in that year 2016 will be put into force by the pandemic. The call for inclusive capitalism and the new Green Deal without a discussion of climate change, from weapons and weather modification, has never been mentioned. Every country that has some substance is involved in weather modification to a greater or lesser extent. Some for innocent purposes and some for other purposes. And so we come to this statement a long time ago in the book by Malachi Martin, published in 1990, and it says, servant of the grand design, willing or not, ready or not, we are all involved in an all-out, no-holds-barred, three-way global competition. Most of us are not the competitors, however, we are the stakes, for the competition is about who will establish the first one world system of government that has ever existed in the Society of Nations. I think this Jesuit priest had a good idea about it. It is about who will hold and wield the dual power of authority and control over each of us as individuals and over all of us together as a community, over the entire 6 billion people expected by demographers to inhabit the earth by early in the third millennium. And I draw your attention to the word that he used, the first, dual power of authority. So we're looking here at Revelation 13. He's just speaking about what he knows as an insider, and I refer you to what God tells us through his prophecies in Revelation 13. It talks about two beasts, one coming up from the sea and the other one coming up from the earth. The competition is all out because now that it has started, there is no way it can be reversed or called off. No holds are barred, because once the competition has been decided, the world and all that in it is our way of life as individuals and as citizens of nations, our families, our jobs, our trade, our commerce and our money, our educational systems and our religions and our cultures, even the badges of our national identity, which all of us have taken for granted, all will be powerfully and radically altered forever. So we have Donald Trump coming out with making America great again, and it smacks against this whole idea of where they were sailing towards with the world order. No one can be exempt from its effects. No sector of our lives will remain untouched. And so we see that in the riots and revolutions that is going on in America at the moment. The competition began and continues as a three-way affair, because that is the number of rivals with sufficient resources to establish and maintain a new world order. And it was speaking concerning the USA, Vatican, and Russia, or the USSR, that now has split into Russia. No one who is acquainted with the plans of these three rivals has any doubt but that only one of them can win. So now I refer you to Revelation 17. It talks about who is the winner. Each expects the other two to be overwhelmed and swallowed up in the coming powerful whirlpool of change. That being the case, it will appear inescapable that their competition will end up as confrontation. And we are looking towards a world of confrontation. As to the time factor involved, those of us who are under the age of 70 will see at least the basic structures of the new world government installed. Those of us who are under 40 will surely live under its legislative, executive and judiciary authority and control. Indeed, the three rivals themselves, and many more besides as time goes on, speak about this new world order not as something around the distant corner of time, but as something that is imminent, as a system that will be introduced and installed by the end of this final decade of the second millennium. Malachi Martin, Jesuit priest, Keys of His Blood, published in 1990, and I take you again to the words of Obama in his address to Germany before he left presidency, saying that the world order was behind the time schedule that they had envisaged, but it was still going to be implemented, and so we see it right before us in what has occurred in recent times.